I stood in my sewing room, frozen in shock, staring at the torn-up pieces of my daughter Judy's graduation dress. My hands shook as I bent down and gently picked up the soft silk and lace from the floor. What once had been a beautiful dress was now only scraps. I had spent so many long days and nights working on that dress, and now it was gone, ruined in just a few minutes. The woman who did this had never truly accepted me or my daughter. Her cruel words still echoed in my ears. She doesn't deserve a special day. That was Natalie, my mother-in-law. Her face had been filled with hate for years, and her actions proved that nothing had changed. My Luke deserves better than a stepdaughter who just gets by, she had once said. Even after all this time, she still couldn't see Judy as family. My name is Emily Blunt. I'm 43 years old, and I never thought I'd be dealing with something so hurtful. I'm a professional seamstress, and for the past 7 months, I had been working on Judy's graduation dress. Every little detail, every stitch, every crystal was made with love. I wanted her to feel special on her big day. It was a way of showing how proud I was of her and all she had achieved. The dress had been beautiful, a long A-line gown made of ivory silk, with lace and beads carefully sewn by hand. I had spent weeks making it just right. Judy had tried it on only yesterday. I still remember her face, lighting up with joy. She twirled around in front of the mirror and then hugged me tightly. "Mom, it's perfect. I can't believe you made this for me," she whispered. But now, less than 1 day before her graduation, the dress was destroyed. Natalie had waited until Judy was at her last graduation rehearsal and my husband Luke was at work. She used the spare key, one Luke had asked me to let her keep for emergencies, to sneak into her house. But instead of using it for help, she used it to hurt us. I picked up my phone with shaking hands and called my best friend Danielle. She's also a seamstress and someone I trust deeply. She did what? Danielle's voice was filled with shock and anger. "Emily, you need to call the police. This is destruction of property." I sighed. My voice was calm, but inside, I was still heartbroken. "It won't matter," I said. Right now, all I could think about was Judy, how I was going to fix this, and how to make sure she still felt special on her important day. I wasn't going to let Natalie take that away from her. Not now. Not ever. I knew deep down that Luke would never call the police on his mother. "You know how he is with her," I said quietly. It was the truth. My husband, for all his kindness and good qualities, had one big weakness: his mother, Natalie. She had always controlled him in subtle ways. Over the years, she had made him believe that her behavior was normal. Whenever she said something cruel or did something wrong, he would make excuses for her. He just couldn't see her for who she really was. "So, what are you going to do now?" Danielle asked over the phone. "Judy's graduation is tomorrow morning." I looked up at the calendar, hanging on the wall. Next to tomorrow's date, I had written Judy's big day in bright letters, and I had drawn little hearts around it. My daughter had worked so hard. Even though Natalie had constantly criticized and insulted her, Judy never gave up. She deserved a day to feel proud, to feel special. "Do you remember Project Phoenix?" I asked Danielle. A small smile appeared on my face, despite everything. "The backup dress?" Danielle gasped. "You actually made it?" "I did," I said, walking over to my storage closet. I pushed aside the winter coats and pulled out a long garment bag I had hidden behind them. Last year, Natalie had destroyed one of Judy's art projects, something my daughter had worked on for weeks. After that, I had a feeling something like this might happen again. So I quietly began working on a second dress, just in case. Inside the garment bag was a new dress, one I had made in secret. And this one was even more beautiful than the first. While the original had been soft and traditional, this dress was bold and bright. It was made from deep midnight blue silk and covered with tiny crystals that sparkled like stars in the night sky. I had sewn them on during my lunch breaks and late at night after everyone was asleep. I had poured my heart into it, just like the first dress. "Oh, Emily," Danielle said when I sent her a photo. "It's stunning." "What about Natalie?" she added. "She'll be at the graduation." "Let her come," I said firmly. I felt stronger in that moment. It's time she learns she can't hurt us anymore. Judy is stronger than she thinks. And so am I. Just then, I heard the front door open. Judy's voice called out, "Mom, I'm home." "I'm in the sewing room, sweetie," I called back, quickly zipping up the garment bag and setting it aside. I heard her footsteps coming closer. When she walked into the room, she stopped. Her eyes went wide as she looked around at the mess, the pieces of ivory silk on the floor, the broken beads, the torn lace. "Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The dress, what happened?" I crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. "Natalie happened," I said softly. Holding Judy close. I could feel her body tighten when she heard Natalie's name. But I quickly added, "Don't worry, sweetheart. She hasn't won this time." Judy pulled back from the hug and wiped the tears from her eyes. "But graduation is tomorrow," she said, her voice shaky. "Everyone's expecting me to wear that dress. I can't just—" I gently interrupted her by reaching for the hidden garment bag. "Your grandmother has always underestimated us," I said, slowly unzipping the bag. "Maybe it's time we show her just what we can do." As I opened the bag and revealed the midnight blue dress, Judy's eyes widened. Her gasp turned into a joyful laugh. "Mom," she whispered, stepping forward to touch the dress. Her fingers gently brushed the sparkling crystals on the bodice. "Did you really make this too?" "I did," I said, smiling warmly as I watched her eyes light up. "Because you deserve more than just a special day. You deserve an unforgettable one." "Natalie might have torn your dress," I continued, "but she can't destroy who you are. She can't take away your strength, your hard work, or everything you've achieved." Just then, the front door opened. Luke was home from work. Soon, I'd have to tell him what happened. How his mother came into our home and destroyed something that meant so much. I knew he would probably try to defend her, like he always did. But right now, I didn't want to think about that. This moment was about Judy. I held my daughter close, both of us looking at the dress together. It wasn't just a gown. It stood for something bigger. It was about being strong, being ready, and not letting anyone dim your light. "Try it on," I said gently, handing it to her. I already imagined the look on Natalie's face. That alone would be worth everything. Sometimes, the best way to fight back isn't by yelling or arguing. It's by being prepared and rising above it all. Natalie had tried to ruin Judy's big day. But she had no idea that her cruel plan was about to fail in the best possible way. The next morning, the sky was clear and sunny. It felt like the world was finally giving Judy the day she deserved. I was adding the last touches to her makeup when I heard a sudden breath from the doorway. It was Luke. He stood there, staring at Judy in the dark blue dress that sparkled like stars. His mouth opened slightly in surprise. That's not the dress I saw last week," he said slowly, his eyebrows drawn together. "What happened to the ivory one?" Judy shifted uncomfortably beside me, but I gently kept my hand steady. This was her moment, and nothing, especially not Natalie, was going to ruin it. As I gently applied Judy's mascara, Luke stood nearby, still looking confused. He finally asked, "What happened to the dress?" Without raising my voice, I answered calmly, "Why don't you ask your mother? She used the emergency key yesterday when we weren't home." Luke's face turned pale. "My mom wouldn't, she couldn't have done that." "If you don't believe me," I said, finishing Judy's makeup, "the pieces of the dress are still in the sewing room. You can go look. Every bead, every bit of silk, everything I spent 7 months working on was destroyed in just minutes." "There must be some mistake," Luke began, trying to defend her as always. But this time Judy spoke up.
"No, Dad."
No more excuses. She stood up from the chair, and the midnight blue dress flowed around her like water under the stars. She looked strong and calm as she continued. "Grandma Natalie has been trying to ruin every special moment in my life since I was 7, Judy said firmly. "Remember the art project she accidentally spilled coffee on? The piano recital she tried to cancel? Every time something important happens, she finds a way to ruin it or make it about herself." I looked at Luke. watching the truth finally hit him. For years, he had ignored his mother's behavior. He always made excuses for her actions, hoping things would get better. But now, standing in front of his daughter, seeing the sadness and strength in her eyes, something changed in him. "I'll talk to her," he said quietly, his voice weak. "No," I said, gently placing Judy's graduation cap and tassel in her hands. "Not today. Today isn't about Natalie. It's about Judy. She's graduating with honors. She's giving the opening speech. And nothing, not even your mother, is going to take that away from her." On the drive to the school, the car was quiet. I could tell Luke was deep in thought. He kept looking at Judy through the rearview mirror, maybe realizing for the first time how much his daughter had gone through without ever complaining. When we got to the auditorium, we were early. Judy needed to meet the other students who were speaking at the ceremony. As she walked away, her dress caught the light, and people turned to admire her. Near the entrance, I saw Natalie and her husband Lucas. Natalie's eyes locked on Judy, and her face twisted with anger. "What is she wearing?" she hissed, grabbing Luke's arm. "That's not the dress you showed me last week." I smiled, keeping my voice pleasant but loud enough for the nearby parents to hear. "No, it's not. That dress had an unfortunate accident yesterday when someone broke into our house and destroyed it." I paused, then added, "Luckily, we were prepared." "I always have a backup plan," I said calmly, but loud enough for others to hear. Natalie's face turned bright red. Around us, several parents had started to whisper and glance in our direction. Even Lucas, her husband, who usually acted like he didn't notice her behavior, looked confused. "What do you mean someone broke in?" he asked, clearly puzzled. "Oh, it wasn't really a break-in," I replied sweetly, keeping my eyes on Natalie. "They used a key, an emergency key, one that only family members have access to." I paused, then added, "Isn't that right, Natalie?" Before she could answer, the school principal stepped up to the microphone and announced it was time for everyone to take their seats. We moved into the auditorium with the rest of the crowd. As we walked, I could hear Natalie whispering angrily to Luke, probably trying to make up another excuse, another lie to cover what she had done. But then everything changed. Judy walked out onto the stage, standing tall and proud in her stunning midnight blue dress that sparkled under the lights. Even Natalie, full of anger and pride, went quiet. Judy stepped up to the microphone to give the opening speech. Her voice was strong and steady. The audience immediately quieted to listen. "Life isn't about the obstacles people put in our way," Judy began. Her eyes searched the crowd until they found mine. She gave me the smallest smile before continuing. "It's about how we choose to overcome them." She paused for a moment and then said, "Sometimes, the people who should support us the most are the very ones who try to hold us back. But real strength doesn't come from never falling. It comes from getting back up every time someone tries to knock us down." I glanced over and saw Luke wiping a tear from his eye. For the first time, he was truly hearing what Judy had been trying to tell him all these years. That his mother, the woman he loved and protected, had been hurting the people he loved most. Natalie sat stiffly in her seat. Her face was tight with anger, but she said nothing. Judy's words filled the auditorium with honesty, courage, and hope. She spoke about staying strong during hard times, about never giving up, and about preparing for life's surprises, even the painful ones. When Judy finished her speech, the room filled with loud applause. People stood and clapped as she returned to her seat. The crystals on her dress caught the light and shimmered like stars falling from the sky. I caught Natalie's eye for just a moment. And for the first time in 16 years, I saw something different in her expression. Not just anger, but fear. Not fear of me, exactly, but fear of what I stood for. I was someone she couldn't control. Someone who would never let her hurt my daughter again. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. When Judy's name was called and she walked across the stage to accept her diploma, she didn't just walk, she glided. Each step she took was quiet, strong, and full of pride. Every movement was a statement. She had won. The dress I made in secret, which started as a simple backup plan, had become something much more powerful. It was born from years of expecting Natalie's tricks and cruel behavior. What began as a safety net had turned into a symbol of strength and quiet rebellion. As the graduates threw their caps into the air, I watched my daughter smile and hug her friends. Her joy lit up her whole face. It was a smile brighter than any star, and brighter than any darkness Natalie had tried to bring into our lives. Natalie's attempt to ruin Judy's graduation had completely failed. Instead of being embarrassed or hurt, Judy stood proud and happy. Parents, teachers, and students all stopped to say how beautiful she looked. But it wasn't just the dress that got attention, it was what the dress stood for. This moment wasn't just about one special day. It was about everything that had built up over the past 16 years. Every time Natalie had made Judy feel small. Every time she tried to ruin something important. Every time we forgave her, hoping she'd change. This day was a turning point. As we gathered outside for photos, I glanced at Natalie. I could see her mind working. Maybe she was finally starting to realize that her control over our family was slipping away. But what she didn't know was that this was only the beginning. The midnight blue dress was not the only backup plan I had created. Over the years, I had been preparing in other ways too. Sometimes the best kind of revenge isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, slow, careful. It's in the moment someone realizes that all their efforts to tear you down only made you stronger. And Natalie was about to find that out. After the ceremony, while other families were laughing and heading off to celebrate, we stood in tense silence in the school parking lot. No one said a word until Luke, who had been quiet since Judy's speech, finally turned to his mother. "You need to give me your house key back," he said in a calm but firm voice, holding out his hand. "I can't trust you anymore." Natalie's face twisted in anger. "How dare you?" she snapped. "After everything I've done for this family." Judy stepped forward, her dress sparkling in the sun. "You mean like destroying my first dress?" she asked. "Or should we talk about all the other things you've done?" I opened my purse and pulled out a small leather notebook. "Actually," I said, looking directly at Natalie, "let's talk about it." She looked confused. "I've written everything down," I said. "Every accident, every cruel comment, every time you try to hurt Judy, since she was 8 years old." For the first time, Natalie's smug look disappeared. And in that moment, she finally understood. We were done letting her win. I opened the notebook and turned to the first page. "May 18th, 2013, I read aloud. Natalie spilled bleach on Judy's art project the night before the school exhibition." I turned another page. "November 11th, 2016, Natalie called the school and pretended to be me. She canceled Judy's piano recital." Lucas, Natalie's husband, looked shocked. "You kept records?" he asked, surprised. "Yes," I said, holding the notebook firmly. "I wrote down everything with dates, photos, and even the names of people who saw what happened. After the third accident, I realized we might need proof someday." Luke, my husband, took the notebook from my hands. His fingers shook as he turned the pages, reading the painful truth written on each one. He had spent years defending his mother, but now the facts were right in front of him. "Mom," he whispered, looking up at Natalie, his voice full of hurt. "How could you do all this?" Natalie's face turned red. She pointed at Judy and shouted, "She's not even your real daughter. She doesn't deserve any of this." That was the moment Luke broke. "Judy became my daughter the day I married Emily," he said, his voice loud and clear across the parking lot. "She's more of a family to me than you are right now." Natalie turned to Lucas, hoping he'd defend her. But he was still reading over Luke's shoulder, his expression changing with each line he read. His jaw tightened. "Natalie," he said slowly, "did you really tell Judy's college counselor she was mentally unstable? Just to hurt her chances of getting into college?" "I was protecting the family," Natalie snapped. "I didn't want her to embarrass us." "The only embarrassment here is you," Judy said quietly but firmly. "And, by the way, I got into every college I applied to. Mom helped me send my applications through a different counselor." I stepped closer to Natalie and looked her straight in the eyes. "That's what you never understood. Every time you tried to hurt Judy, you actually made us stronger. You made us smarter. You made us more prepared. That dress you ruined? I continued. That wasn't the first backup plan I made. And it won't be the last. What do you mean? Natalie demanded. Judy stepped forward, her voice calm and steady. She means we have copies of everything, she said. Every mean email you sent, every manipulative text message, the video from when you used the key to sneak into Mom's sewing room. Even the audio of you bragging to your friends about ruining my art project. Natalie's face went pale. You can't prove. Actually, we can, I interrupted. And unless you want all that proof shared with the whole family, including your church group and your charity board, you're going to do exactly what we say. Lucas gently placed a hand on his wife's shoulder. Natalie, he said firmly, it's time to go home. We need to talk, Lucas said to Natalie, his voice full of disappointment. As the two of them walked away, Luke turned to us with tears in his eyes. I'm so sorry, he said quietly. I should have seen it sooner. I should have protected both of you. Judy stepped forward and hugged him tightly. But you see it now, she said gently. That's what matters. Later that evening, we went to Judy's favorite restaurant to celebrate her graduation. Laughter filled the air, and the weight of the day began to lift. As we enjoyed dinner and dessert, our phones started buzzing one after the other. Natalie had made a long post on social media. She apologized for her recent behavior and said she would be stepping down from all her positions on community boards and groups. She claimed she needed time to focus on personal growth. Do you think she really means it? Judy asked, taking a bite of her chocolate cake. I laughed softly. No, not really. But she knows we have proof. Proof that could ruin the perfect image she spent years building. Sometimes the best kind of revenge isn't shouting or public shame. It's letting someone live with the fear of being exposed at any moment. And Natalie would now carry that fear with her always. Luke reached across the table and gently held my hand. You're amazing, he said, looking at both me and Judy. I don't deserve either of you. Judy cut him off with a smile. Don't say that. We're family. Real family. And real family protects each other. On the drive home, Judy still wore her stunning midnight blue dress. She looked so happy, so full of pride. As I watched her through the rearview mirror, I thought about all the years that led to this moment. All the careful planning, all the records I had kept, all the backup plans I had made, just in case Natalie tried to hurt us again. Natalie had tried to tear us apart, but instead, she made us stronger. Judy had learned to rise above cruelty with grace and preparation. She had learned to fight back with calm strength, not anger. Now, the beautiful dress hung in Judy's room. It was more than just fabric and beads. It was a symbol, a reminder that when someone tries to destroy something beautiful, the best answer is to create something even more amazing. And as for Natalie, she learned something important too. Never underestimate a mother's love for her child. And never underestimate a seamstress's skill in sewing both dresses and plans. The next morning, we received a message from Lucas. He had found a hidden box in Natalie's closet. Inside were items she had taken or ruined over the years, kept like trophies. He told us he was filing for divorce. Sometimes justice comes in ways you don't expect. And sometimes the best revenge is simply being ready, no matter what life, or a spiteful mother-in-law, throws at you.